All right, it's a big day in the market. We've got a lot of great companies to cover today. I'm going to be going over some earnings of some very popular stocks. But let's just start off by taking a look at the heat map of the S&P 500. Well, we see that it's a red day. Man, selling pressure has continued. Something I pointed out to you last week that we were likely to go into some selling pressure. But Apple, out of all of the stocks in the S&P 500, has at least taken a pause. I think that 10% pullback to around the $177 mark is probably where Apple's going to bounce. And so you can see today that it's still determining whether that's going to hold. A big day for Eli Lilly over in healthcare, popping up 16%. And I want to remind you guys that over the last couple weeks, I've been saying that we're going to see rotation into healthcare and even into energy. And we're continuing to see that today in the heat map. So yesterday I mentioned Apple and Tesla. I just want to recap what I'm expecting to get out of both of those run-ups. I think we found support on Apple with that 10% pullback, and I believe that we could go all the way back up to $180. And on Tesla at 20% pullback, I believe that we have found support right beneath 145. And since we closed back above 145, I do believe that we have the opportunity to take this back up to 260. Yesterday, Palantir came out with their earnings, which was largely a market meet expectation, with a little bit of beat in some areas. But let's just recap the prediction that I made yesterday. I warned that the critical level for Palantir that it needed to hold through the earnings aftermath was $17, that anything above $17 was going to keep it in the next trade range that went from 17 all the way to 27, but a break beneath 17 opened it back up to its previous trade range, which was actually 17 all the way down to 1150. Now, I'm bullish on Palantir, and I actually think that they're going to continue to do well. I would say that the price has come up quite a bit. I don't see it right now pulling back to $11.50. I think that's more of a long-term historic support, but I do see it coming back to $15. And yesterday in my video, I said that we would likely come back and bounce off of the top of the channel that I had previously drawn, and which also aligned with the 50 MA on the daily candlestick chart. And that's exactly what happened. It had a very volatile move, flashing down, hitting the top of that channel, and then running all the way back up above $18.50. But not in the video, but over on the chat group on the moomoo app, I was tracking the Palantir while earnings was live, and we saw that drop and that pop back up, and I warned on the chat group that we had to close above $18.60 today for a confirmation move to go higher, because closing below 1860 would simply be making a lower high, and you can see this descending resistance line. It's where it stopped, right? And then we got rejected there, and now today we see that we're moving lower, and we fell into that lower range. If you're bullish and you're long on Palantir, all the market did is give you an opportunity to buy at a better price. My predictions yesterday turned out pretty accurate. We're still in the middle of earnings seasons, and today I'm going to be covering Rivian, Mara, and SOUN. This is the Stocks with Josh show. Thank you guys for hitting the like. Watch out for the scammers in the comment section. They try to get you to DM them on WhatsApp, Telegram, and Instagram. It's not me. They use my picture and my face. If you're new to this page, I do daily videos on stock and crypto, and I put my butt on the line giving clear predictions and places of entry and places of take profit every single day on this channel. We're going to do it again today with these three popular companies, Rivian, Mara, and SOUN. All right, let's just jump right into Rivian. And because I'm going to be running technicals on so many different stocks today, I'm not going to dive much into the news story or the fundamentals. I'm simply going to make a prediction of how this earnings is going to flush out. Now, I want to share a picture with you guys that I took of the first Rivian truck that I happened to come across. I was out getting lunch, and a Rivian truck parked right next to my Ford F-350. Thought, oh wow, Rivian truck. So I walked over and I kind of peeked in through one of the side windows, and there was a big digital screen, kind of like a giant iPad on the dashboard or something like that. And when I was looking into the car, a little character popped up, and he had a camera, and he did like a take a picture action, and I think it was a security feature letting me know that because I was pretty close to the truck that it was taking a picture of me. So I'm sure it was probably sent my nosy looking face picture of that over to the owner. But I was just checking it out, and you know, I like Rivian. I like their niche. I like their messaging. I like the connections that they have. You guys know that overall, I'm a Tesla guy. I really don't trade Rivian. I like to be in the fastest moving car or the best in class option in whatever category I'm investing in or trading in, and for me, that's Tesla. But Rivian's had an incredible run, but let's just take a quick look at where support and resistance are going into earnings today. And I'm going to tell you guys that just like we saw with Apple and just like we saw with Palantir, I'm going to give you guys this very specific trade range that we're likely to fluctuate in. But overall, I think it's coming down. I think we really have no support right now from where we're at all the way down to $20.50. So what exactly is going to happen going into earnings? Even if they beat, even if they do well, you have to realize that these stocks have come up off their very lows through the first 6 months of this year. And now we're in correction. Now we're going to be establishing a long-term support that's higher than the long-term support that we used to have. So this is really healthy for Rivian stock, and a lot of the stocks that we love, like Apple and Tesla, we're now creating a longer-term lower support that's higher than the support that we used to have. So Rivian's going to pull back, and it looks to me like support is at $20.50, and I don't see it breaking beneath that right now. But what we could see, if they came out with good earnings, we could see this temporary fake out pump to the top, which would be the same descending resistance line type of line that we saw with Palantir. We could go as high as $26.40. But then after that, I believe is going to be some profit taking and some bleeding off, because I still believe that we're going into a correction mode overall on the market. And when stocks are not in a mode to be pumping up, and they're in a mode to be taking profit, they're going to slowly come down. Even if they have these moves up on good news, they're still going to slowly come down. I think that's what's going to happen to Rivian. And in a lot of these companies, if you look at the technicals, you see that they're actually coming back to their 50 MA on the daily candle, which means that they've gone up above it, and now they're coming back to back test it, hopefully for a longer term bounce. That's extremely healthy. And so I'm thinking the same thing will happen to Rivian, and that would bring it back to support, which also happens to be the 50 MA. All right, I'm going to get into Mara and SOUN. SOUN is the AI play. Mara is the Bitcoin play. They're two very popular stocks on this channel. I'm going to get into them in just a minute. Let me take a quick station break for the moomoo investment app. It's available in the US, Australia, and now pre-registration for Canada. You can get the app. You get an opportunity at a free gift, but you just get to register and you get to learn the app and access the app. You can't yet deposit funds or trade. We're in a pre-registration right now for the Canadian audience to get access to moomoo. I use the app every single day. When I wake up in the morning, I go straight to the earnings calendar on moomoo and check out exactly, you get a recap of what's happening today, as well as the fact that after earnings post, they give you a beautiful little overview. But if you're new to moomoo, you have the opportunity of taking advantage of their offer to get free stock. So you get up to 16 free stock if you're in the US, as well as a $50 cash bonus. You can click on the link in the top pinned comment and you will be directed to the offer that's relevant for your country. Once you get the moomoo app, I host a chat group on the app called Stock Josh Fam, and after I post this video today, I'm going to be going on and I'll probably be with the family during the earnings events for Rivian, SOUN, and Mara, and I'll be answering questions and giving opinions as we roll into that. So get the free stuff and then try to find me on the app under Stock Josh Fam. Okay, what am I doing with Mara? Well, we saw an early flash down on Mara, but let's just stop and pause and let's acknowledge where Mara is at. When Mara was just up under $20, I came and gave the prediction that it was not on its way to 25, but it was on its way back to support at 1550, right? And where are we at? We came back to that level. Guys, a big part of trading is just to understand the trend that you're currently in. And I knew that once we hit that high level of resistance, it was likely for Mara to cool off. Now, again, I'm going to say the same thing I said about Palantir and Apple and Tesla. This is good and healthy because what we want Mara to do is to establish itself at a higher support trend line than it did before. Now, the question is 1550 going to hold, or could we potentially go lower? Well, you guys know I've said it before. Mara, it's not the earnings that it's dependent upon. Now, the earnings will move the stock, right? It will affect the stock price. But what really moves Mara is which direction Bitcoin is moving. And at the moment, Bitcoin has been cooling off. Now, Mara and Riot and all of the miners tend to front run a move in Bitcoin. And so if we see them take off, we get a nice tall, fat candle, then it often tells us that there could be a move coming in Bitcoin. At the moment, Mara is cooling off. It's taking a breather from its run up. It's found support at 1550. If earnings are good, it's going to fluctuate. I'm going to give you the price range, so just watch this carefully. It could fluctuate all the way as high as $16.80. But then after that, if Bitcoin's not running, it's likely to come back and bleed off to $13.80 is what I would be watching for the next couple days, Thursday and Friday. Now, not to get too bearish, because like I said, market have a nice little pop up to 1680 today. If Bitcoin doesn't go up and if it moves sideways or even down, the likelihood with Mara and the miners is that we're going to get a better price. The next support beneath 1550. So keep an eye on how 1550 holds up through the end of this week. Because if we find ourselves beneath 1550 at the close this coming Friday, then it's very likely there's a signal telling us that we're on our way to the next level of support, which is $12. That's the next level of support. There'll be a stop around the $13 mark, $13.80, but ultimately, if we continue to bleed, we will eventually hit $12 because that's the next major level of support. All right, the next one, the big one, SOUN AI. So why is SOUN AI the big one? Is it a big play for me? The answer is no. Guys, I already told you, small cap, small position size. But I know a lot of you guys love the idea of getting in on an AI stock that was under $5, and that has turned out to be SOUN, S-O-U-N, Soundhound. They're reporting today. And here is what we're watching. We're really not really looking so much at the fundamentals. Fundamentals have good and bad, largely a lot of bad because they're diluting their shares because they're not profitable, but they're going to have some progress right now because, like I said, it's AI season that's going to open them up to some wild price fluctuations. And so here is the main thing that we're watching today. I want to make this as clear as possible because I know that sometimes people just go off the feeling of bullish sentiment or the feeling of bearish sentiment and they don't really focus in on the technicals. But let me focus you in on the technicals with sound. So we're looking for a higher low. Now, for us to have a higher low on sound, the price can fluctuate all the way down to above $1.60. But we don't really want to see it come below $1.60 because that would make a lower local low. That would change our bullishness. We want to see it hold up above $1.60. Now, I've been telling you guys for quite a while that this was going to be sub $2, and I had a lot of people in the comment section say, no, Josh, it's going to hold. It's not going sub $2, but lo and behold, where are we at? Now, I've been buying. I bought some yesterday when it hit $2, and I put another order in at $1.90, and that got filled today. And I think that we still are going to test some volatility beneath $1.90. It would be very likely. The stop loss that you would consider to protecting yourself from a much lower low, because technically this thing could go all the way down to its historic support at $1. That's absolutely possible. And if you load it up at $3, you'd be losing 2/3 of your capital. So be cautious. The area in which I would consider putting a stop loss would be at $1.55, which would be just a couple pennies beneath its local low. That's the area that we want to see it stay above. So if we stay above it, I'm going to be feeling a lot more bullish. And if you look at the past history, you can see that this thing has come down to this lower range before and then fired all the way back up to $5. Now, the macro event that we're currently in is bearish, and I'm going to talk about that as a conclusion to the end of this video. And so we've got to be careful making any type of big investments at this moment in a beat down, unprofitable company. That's why I'm keeping my position size very limited. As of yesterday, before my order filled today, I only had 1,400 shares. So it's a small play for me. I want you guys to be wise, and I'm not advising you as what to buy, sell, or hold, but you do not want to load 100% into sound. It's an interesting speculative play. It's an AI play that could really do well, but it's super high risk, and there is the possibility that these guys who are currently running it could screw up the game plan, causing this thing to go way lower than it is and actually make a new low. It could go down to 55 cents. I'm not predicting that. This is not about scaring you guys, but I want you to keep a sober mind because I haven't lost a sober mind on sound. I like to play just as much as I did the other day. It's working just the way I thought it would work, but it needs to stay above $1.60. That's the area that I'm going to be watching with laser focus, and that's the area that you'll have to make a decision. So if we fell below $1.60, you'd have to decide whether you wanted to lock in a loss and just step away from it, see what it's going to do. You could always pile back in if it began to shoot back up above $2. All right, as I said in the the last week's videos. I said that we were seeing some reorganization, some shuffling of stock, but ultimately we're going to be entering into a correction mode that eventually would look like a heating up selling pattern. I did mention last week that the SQQQ looked like it held pretty well at around that $16 mark, which if we go back in time, you can see that when it was $22, I predicted that it would ultimately find its home in the $16 range, which it did. And then I had someone ask me in the comment section, Josh, is 16 the buy price for SQQQ? No, that was the low support level that I don't see us coming back to for the next couple months. I see us testing the top of the range. I see us moving to 22, possibly as high as 24, 25, maybe even $28, depending on how bearish things might get. So I'm not telling you where SQQQ is going to go, but there's no longer a scenario where you wait and see if it comes back to some lower price. Could it come back to some lower prices? Yes. If the market has an upswing day, that's the day that you would buy the SQQQ. But overall, we should see it vacillating upwards until we get out of this difficult patch in the market. So what is the difficult patch that we're in? Well, as I mentioned yesterday, I read an analyst report. They identified that we were going to likely have a 5% sticky inflation going into this summer. We were going to have 3% unemployment. We were going to have a 7% budget deficit in 2023, and they were calling it the pain trade. And they said that the pain trade really looked like the fact that people were going to be expecting a plateau from the Fed or even rate cuts, but instead they were going to come back because of the problems I just mentioned, and they were going to give us additional rate hikes, pushing the interest rate to 6%, not down to 3% by the end of this year. That's the pain trade. Now, this is the bearish view. That's the bearish view I just painted for you guys. What we're trying to do is trying to keep balance of perspective. That's the bearish view, and it would depend a lot on the news data that we get, like the inflation data, which we're going to be getting here soon. But the bullish view is that we've been up for 6 months. This is just a reasonable 8 to 10% correction on the SPY and some of our favorite stocks. You're going to see more risky trades like Tesla. It came down 22%. The Apple only came down 10%. So we're going to be watching to see if this is just a small correction and we continue to move up on our favorite stocks going into the end of this year. We're going to be watching to see if that happens or if this transitions into the pain trade, which is going to be confirmed by the data that we get. That's the big view today. I hope all the technicals I gave you guys today were super helpful. Let me know what you're doing with Apple, Tesla, Palantir, Mara, Rivian, and SOUN. Let me know what you're doing with any of those. Are you trading them? Are you buying them? Are you dumping them? Let me know. Thanks again for joining me. Thanks again for hitting the like. Hit the subscribe button to get the next video. I'm covering more companies' earnings tomorrow. Going to be making more predictions. So far, my predictions have been on point. Let's see how these 3 play out today. We'll do it again tomorrow. Hit that subscribe button. Peace and blessings. See you in the chat.